Hi, everybody. Angel here. Hope you're doing great. And today I'm super excited to speak with Francis of My Vegan Wines. And we will get started soon. Here we go. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. Hi there.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. It's one
Uh,
day closer to the weekend.
all right. Wow, you're counting down early. This is good. This is a good sign. I love it. I love it. I love seeing you between all these different places, it's really cool to see
Thank you.
you, like jet setting, I guess we could say.
Yeah, thank you. I'm actually in Puerto Rico right now, and I leave Thursday to New York to get ready for the cross-country research trip we got going on.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you'll tell us about that for your future in our segment about your future projects. That would be really cool to hear about.
Thank
And so first of all, I want to thank you so much, Francis, for taking the time. I met you over on Clubhouse, and then I followed you back over here on Instagram. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with us. I think it's an important topic because I know for myself, for a long time, I didn't even realize that the standard wine was not vegan, and we'll get into that. And I do want to say hi to everybody who's joining, either live or on the replay. And please put your questions and comments down below. We'd be happy to, get your questions for Francis, and also let us know where you're tuning in from around the world. That's always cool to hear, to hear where you're tuning in from. So with that, Francis, we have a lot to talk about. So I'm just going to jump right in with my first question for you, please. And that is, if you could share with us your vegan journey, how you started and how you ended up to where you are today, please.
Oh, wow. So I've been a vegan now for about 30 years. Yeah,
Oh,
it's been a long time.
wow.
And I had a friend. At that time, we didn't have the documentaries we have now, right? So he got this video that showed how animals are treated in other countries for tradition, not for food, for tradition. And I remember seeing it was so cruel, and I said to myself, why are they doing that? But it turned out that we're doing the same because it clicked. We're eating meat out of tradition, we're hurting the animals. And then it changed. Now I'm Puerto Rican, so most of our food is, well, now it's changing. But so it was hard. So I said, okay, I'm gonna stop eating because I didn't understand the fish with everything yet. But as soon as I just saw my plate of food, I couldn't. That was it. It just changed, and I never ate meat again. So
Amazing.
that was the start.
What I find amazing, first of all, is this was 30 years ago. I have now spoken with over 120 people for my talk show here, as I call it. And you are one of the, like, what people would call the OGs, like the original. Like, I am seriously impressed. And my friend Jen here says 30 years is legit. I agree.
Yes, it's been a long time.
But how did you manage, like, way back when, though? Like, for example, before the whole, vegan cheese era and the vegan dairy era and the transitional plant meats. I mean, how did that take place for you?
A lot of avocado, rice, and beans and veggies.
Yeah.
So my parents, they're like any parents. They want to feed you, and you're like,
Yes.
well, if you put the ham inside the beans, I can't eat it.
Yes.
So they started, cooking without the rice and beans, the beans without meat, and then I
Yes.
would go to Mediterranean restaurants, and
Yeah.
it actually opened up my palate because I didn't know these types of food, right? Indian food, so many vegan options. So then I was like, wow, this is kind of cool, you know,
Yeah.
and that's how I relearned to eat, like many of us do. Um, yeah, so it became easy. You know, I never really ate vegetables before I became vegan, right? And it just opened, your palate changes. Your body yearns these veggies and fruits. Then, so yeah. And also, when I got pregnant with my daughter, when I was a vegan, and I was scared, you know,
Yeah.
and I remember asking the doctor. I said, do I have to eat meat again? Because I was like, I really don't want to. And he said, your body will tell you what it needs. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. My body did not crave any meat. The only bad thing it craved was black coffee. But besides that,
Yeah, well, that's still vegan. That's still
exactly.
plant-based.
And
Coffee
she
is a
was
bean.
born 6 pounds, 18 ounces.
Beautiful. I love that 6 pound range. To me, that just seems perfect. But maybe
Right.
that's because I was 6 pounds and, my family members were 6 pounds. Maybe I just think that's the perfect weight for a baby. I don't know anything about that. But anyway, but what I want to say is, well, first of all, thank you to everyone who's joining. And we have a beautiful comment here from Jen. Francis is stunning, a testament to what 30 years of plant-based eating does to you. I agree. She's
Thank
glowing here. I agree.
you. I just turned 50.
Amazing. And you're still glowing, glowing, glowing. There we
You.
go. And I saw your birthday post. So happy birthday again. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and another comment, what a conscious doctor. I agree. I want to applaud that doctor because I know nowadays, thankfully, we have more plant-based doctors, thankfully. However, back then, not so much, I imagine.
It's true. So I'm very grateful for that doctor.
Yes. I can also relate to something you said because I was vegetarian, pescatarian for over 20 years before I went vegan. I did it for health reasons. So I eliminated what we call meat for health reasons. And I was in my own little bubble, didn't know about these documentaries, wasn't reading a lot, outside of my own kind of, sphere, if you will. And so I really didn't understand the whole like vegan world, but I figured, and I wanted to go vegetarian when I was 18, 19 in my first year of college, and I did it. And then I went back home. And like you were saying, my family was like, no, you have to eat the regular diet. No, you can't do this. You can't do this. So I caved and I gave in and I went back to eating, everything else. And then fast forward a few years later, for health reasons, like I said, I just went to a bookstore. Back then, it was the bookstore; it wasn't really the internet so much. And I just read "Give Up Meat," and I think it said "Give Up Dairy." So I started to eat like soy milk and soy yogurt because that's what they had back then. So I can definitely relate. And then, well, I used to live in Miami, and down there we have a chain of restaurants called Pollo Tropical. And I used to order the beans and rice and yuca. And that was my favorite. That was like my go-to meal when I was, in that area or whatever, because it excluded the chicken or the beef or the pork or something. And so for me, it was normal. And I just kind of ramped up like all of the plant foods and excluded the animal foods.
Yeah. Yeah. We found our ways for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And back then there weren't a lot of options like now with all of the plant
No.
cheeses and the plant milks and the plant this and that, so I just kind of took whatever was there.
Yes,
you know?
definitely. I remember with cheese, I tasted cheese back then and I was like, there's no way. I just gave up cheese altogether. Like I was like, don't even put it near me. It's
Yeah.
so oil. But then I
Ah,
tasted Miyoko's cheese and I was like, now this is what we're talking about. And then
yeah.
that changed it all over again.
I agree. Well, hats off to Miyoko's brother for that. And I mean, she's like at the top of the game here, and she's coming out with cottage cheese, is my understanding too. I don't know if it's out on the market yet, but I know it was announced.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that takes us then fast forward to my vegan wines.
Mhm.
So, um why did you create My Vegan Wines? And tell us, what is happening? What are your offerings within My Vegan Wines, please?
So I don't drink anything else except wines. I don't. I mean, sometimes I drink cocktails, but it's like once every blue moon. So for my birthday, my partner, we went to Bordeaux, and during that
Oh, wow.
visit, yeah, I was like so excited. All of a sudden, I heard egg whites during the whole talk, and I was like, why egg whites? And then they started explaining it, but it was a whole bunch of people. It was like 30 people. So, they were really like rushing me. And I remember my partner, he wasn't a vegan then, and he took the glass of wine from me. He goes, I guess you won't be drinking wine anymore. So I
Ooh.
went and he doesn't drink really at all. So what we did was that we visited different wineries and I would ask
Mm.
so many questions. And like my 25th visit of wineries, there was this one man that's not even vegan told me, okay, you're asking me these questions and they're great, but you're missing the most important part, the soil. Let me tell you what's put in the soil. And I was like, okay. And that was it. He taught me so much. When he purchased his vineyard, it was dead soil. He said it was all dead soil, no life in it whatsoever. He had to wait 5 years before he could do anything with the vineyard. And now he has life. If you go to his Instagram page and Facebook, all you see is life, like the ants and the snails and every worms. He loves it.
Amazing.
And then I figured, if I didn't know, and I've been a vegan for so long, and I'm always trying to educate myself, imagine how many others don't know, right? And it's not, okay, yes, I'm doing it for vegan purposes, but also, people that aren't vegan, the earth. Let's find a way to communicate on on veganism, but whatever reason is for, and what better with wine. I mean, a lot of people like wine, even if they're not a everyday drinker or every other day
Yeah.
drinker. Wine
Yeah.
is for celebrations, birthdays, so it's a good way to promote veganism
Yeah.
in a way where you also can collaborate with other people. I love food. I don't cook. I am the worst cook ever. I'm not ashamed to say it. But I love to eat and I love food and wine pairing. So
Yeah.
I wanted to, and I couldn't find it. Like I remember going to restaurants and they'll be like, okay, what do you want to eat? And I'm like, no, no, they'll ask me what I want to drink. I'm like, I'll give you the food order first. And then I have to find out which wine is vegan because they didn't have any way of indicating. And I had to Google and things like that. And I was like, okay, this is enough. And that's what made me start vegan wines. Just because,
Amazing.
yeah.
Wow. I mean, so this takes us to my other question, which is because I personally didn't know that wine was not vegan. In my mind, if it came from a grape, then that's a fruit, and so a fruit is vegan. And in my mind, it was just normal that wine was vegan. It was not until I started to go to vegan restaurants where they had wines on the menu, and of course it would say vegan, and I was like, wow, this is so interesting. And then one particular restaurant I went to, it was a vegetarian vegan restaurant, and it's now a Michelin star. It was not at the time when I went there, although it was really awesome. And I can see why they got the Michelin star, by the way. Hats off to you guys there. But they had some wines that were labeled vegan and others that were not. So I chose a wine that was labeled vegan. And my question to you, though, is if you can explain to us, and you alluded to it a bit, like when you went to Bordeaux and you discovered, what was going on there. But can you tell us, please, why the standard wines are not vegan? In other words, why would a vegan want to stay away from the mainstream wines, please?
Well, first is education and how the winemakers are taught. So that's a lot of them really didn't see anything wrong with what they're doing. When I first started the business, now they've changed and they get, they're getting it. Um, but it's also because like many other products, they want them out, easy out, like let's produce as many as we can, and you may not have a good harvest. You may, some grapes may be ready and the next row not, and they don't care. They just pick it all up. But now they have to make you think that that's a good wine. So how can they do that? And they'll even mix it with some other grapes that it's not even supposed to be in the wine, and they'll put all these other ingredients to filter the wine and or change the color or make it sweet, and it's not part of what it should be. So it's if also if you keep tasting the same wine year after year, vintage after vintage, and they taste the same, that's not good.
I agree. There's something wrong with that. Even I know that, and I'm
Yes.
not even a connoisseur.
Yeah. So, and then the soil, you know. So let's take here in Puerto Rico, we have one wine, a cacao wine, and when she wants it 100% made produced in Puerto Rico. Her parents own the farm, and they all the cacao trees are them. They're a vegan family. Everything they're about supporting farmers here, especially after Hurricane Maria. So when she was making the wine, they said to her, "We're going to lower the taxes if you put sugarcane. You use sugarcane in the wine." And she said, "Okay." Now she says, you're going to give me a cheaper rate if I import. Also, if I import sugarcane, because we don't have sugarcane in Puerto Rico no more.
Yee.
Yeah, and she goes, "No." So now she didn't get that discount, but the same thing happens with other wineries. You might get a break because you use Roundup in the soil with the farmers. So it's a lot of, misguidance, and also to no patience. They want to just get it going, and it might look like it's good at the moment, but later on you're going to suffer, like the wine industry is suffering because of the climate change. They really are. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I want to say to Jen, thank you for the comment. This is fascinating. And yes, I will save the live. So thank you so much for that. And so you alluded, Francis, to the egg component in the wine that you discovered. I think also there's like some fish used, some parts of fish used
The gut.
in yeah in wine, and I think I understood also, maybe in the soil there's some, like, animal components in there. So what else is going on in the mainstream wine that for us as vegans we would want to avoid?
Well, they also use gelatin for the filtering as well, in the winemaking. And the corks sometimes are binded with beeswax. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's actually one of the certification um, guidelines in Italy for their wines, and that's how I learned, because the winemaker was telling me, no, they look for that for the beeswax, and I'm like, oh, that's amazing, but they use sugar cane instead, sugar, the sugar cane to do the binding instead, you know.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Wow.
and also the animal manure, especially it comes from the slaughterhouses. And again, a lot of people don't know, when I ask for the ingredients in the fertilizer, they have to look for the book, because they don't know what's in the fertilizer that they're buying. They don't know everything. So I've had to learn what is disguised as an animal product, because those words sometimes are like so long, right?
I agree with you. And honestly, I mean, I would hear the word gelatin for years and I would not know that that was animal based. Seriously.
Yeah. So and every day I learn more, because there's wines from all over the world that we have to visit every vineyard, and there's no that's a lot, a lot to do, a lot to go. So I always, it's like veganism. You're always learning, always learning. Oh my gosh, this has animals in it we didn't know. And another thing that's very common, especially in the US, is to use sugar from Costco. for white
Oh.
sugar from Costco for the fermentation. So right
Oh.
there, it's not vegan.
Yeah, yeah. That's another thing. Like for me, in my mind, like sugar comes from sugar cane, right? Like in the old days, and I had no idea that there was an animal component in the whole processing. Like seriously.
It's so bad. And also you're not drinking wine anymore. You're not wine is beautiful. But you have to let it be. It's like and it's like I was reading that people are getting into fruit wines now, and I'm like, the grape is a fruit.
Yeah.
We've always been into fruit wine. It's just the way people see it. So I
Yeah.
just also want to share the beauty of, and also supporting these winemakers that are doing all this work to make sure that the wines are kept to this true nature.
I agree. And tell us, please, about the fact that you actually visit in person the wineries that you select for your collection.
Yes, because of the fact that when I met Pierre in Bordeaux and he told me about the soil, that was indication that I have to visit every vineyard because I want to know what I'm selling. Yeah, we have a partner in Italy that I'm very grateful for because during COVID, we couldn't travel anywhere. He was our face. But him and I, we've met, we've drank and talked to wee hours in the hours in the morning, and his best friend is one of my favorite winemakers that is on our portfolio. But other than that, it's just so important for me to visit every vineyard and also to see how they're treating their workers. If 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 there's animals on their property, how are they treating their animals? Because I always tell people, it's not that we're saying you can't have no animals in your vineyard, but what's going to happen to them when they retire? That is my question, and that's one thing that we don't support. They cannot become food at the end of that. They worked all these years for you, and then now they're your food too. So yeah, it's
Yeah, I love that because Francis, what you're saying too is that there is a level of trust and there is a relationship between yourself and the wineries and the people who run them and of course the animals and the workers. I really love that because a lot, we talk about like fair trade, for example, and human rights. A lot of us as vegans, I think sometimes focus a lot on the non-human animals and we don't always realize that humans sometimes are mistreated in these environments as well. So I really, appreciate you mentioning the human element to it.
thank you. Yes, it's very important. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Like in fashion, we think about fair trade and are they getting a decent wage and fair treatment? And I really hadn't thought about it for like the wine industry.
It's true, and it's very important, and also to know the people behind the label. I sit down and have dinner with them. They put out a whole spread of food, well, and I'm like, okay, so one of them, now we're eating all vegan together, and one of them is the one that I said is the best friend of our partner in Italy. He's a winemaker, and his wife is the animal rescue. They have
Oh
five
my.
sheep, a whole bunch of cats, I think like 15, and four ducks. And they are
Amazing.
planning on opening up a legitimate micro sanctuary. So all these things are just so important, to know what they're doing aside from making wine. What else are they doing to do a positive impact in the world?
I love that because then when they have like the wine tours and the wine tastings at the winery, they can also have the sanctuary visits as well and educate people on the animals. Because I've learned so much from animal sanctuaries. Hats off to everyone who is involved in animal sanctuaries because I really didn't understand fully before I went vegan that animals are sentient beings. There's this saying, some of us, feel or used to feel that animals are here for us and not with us. And I really used to think that. Like in my mind, that's how I was raised. Oh yeah, well, they're a source of food, they're a source of clothing. And in my mind, it was normal. And I never really understood that they had different personalities, etc. Even though we had, dogs as pets, quote unquote, when I was growing up. But I really hadn't made the connection. So I think that's going to be a beautiful combination, to have the sanctuary side and the winery and all that education.
It's so true. I do give it to them in the sanctuaries. It's a lot of work. I have we have 18 guinea hens right now. We rescued them. Yeah, and let me tell you, I love them, but wow.
A lot of work.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
They're not like chickens. Like chickens, you can go and hug them. Guinea hens, no, they like get away from me. That I go to you when I want.
I've heard that some cats are like that.
Oh yeah, I have one of those too. But we're already used to that personality. But with guinea hens, I'm like, oh, I get to hug them now. And they're like, no, you don't.
Yeah, because you're right. Like with chickens, they really like cuddling. And I have a relative who told me that she went to, I don't know, some kind of like a natural environment sometime recently, and she's not vegan. Hopefully one day she will be. I call her and others a pre-vegan or a pregan, and I think everyone's born vegan. It's just we just get all twisted and upside down along our life's journey. But she was telling me how she learned that the chickens love to cuddle and give hugs. And I said, yeah, it's true. And we had that conversation. So yeah, it's very interesting. I didn't know about the guinea hens though.
Yeah, there's something. But so during the cross country trip, we're going to go to visit sanctuaries. So
Amazing.
we do that along the way as well. It's nice to get to make the most out of that trip because we do it in our
Totally.
trailer.
Totally. I mean, and I think that's such an important part of the story, the story behind, what you're doing at My Vegan Wines. And that takes us over to my next question for you, please. If you could tell us about your wine club. So you are the first vegan wine club in the US. Can you tell us like what happens in your wine club? What do people I guess, receive or benefit from in your wine club, please?
So what we do is 4 times a year. It's 6 bottles of wines, and then we have an in-house nutritionist, and she is also my neighbor and a very close friend. She pairs between her and our in-house som. They pair every bottle with a plant-based recipe. So what we want to do is we want to use our platform to now, share that experience with you. So people. She explains also why certain things in her dish are there health wise as well. So yeah, it encourages people and people love it. So our so that's one of the things. We also add an opt-in, whether it's cheese. Mostly it's cheese, but we love partnering with we had vegan macaroons, we had vegan meat, cookies, I mean chocolate, you got it and it tastes good. Come over here.
Let's pair it up. Let's make a
Yes,
combo.
because what I'm trying to feature is things that I love, because that's, I mean, and that it's not hard, it's not easy for me to find, but we're going to now have a concierge with our som, so that if you as a member have questions, whether it's a birthday party or graduation or just a romantic dinner, you want what wine to do with this, she's going to be there and she's going to help that as well. So that's our wine club. Our vegan wine club. And that the wines are 100% vegan from the soil up. Our main ingredient is less is more, and we want to just grow veganism within our wine club, however which way we can. So
Yeah. Well, first of all, just brava to you. Hats off to you and your team. And I love that you are providing a recipe because I have heard so many people say, well, I don't know what to cook. I need recipes. I need recipes. And, I take it for granted. But, either because when I first went vegan, I really went vegan by traveling and being exposed to different restaurants. So I really wasn't even cooking. I was just like traveling and eating, in different places. And then I went raw vegan, which is first, at least I take the more simple approach to the raw vegan. I don't necessarily go with the gourmet raw vegan, although that's super yummy as well. And so for me, like preparing my meals, for me personally, I take a more simplistic approach, but I know some people, they're so used to having recipes and they're not quite sure what to cook. So I really love that you are providing like recipe, pairings, if you will, with your wines. And we have a couple of questions here. So Jen's asking, she's curious about California wines and their standards. So what would you say to that, please, Francis?
It's changing. So it's getting harder for me to find California wines. A lot of them do use Roundup, unfortunately. And because of the climate change, their alcohol level has gone up, so you can go up, I think it's 18% now.
Oof,
And yeah,
that's
and
hefty.
and they add ingredients to the wine because of the climate change to make it still taste better. So it's getting harder for me to source. That's why we went next door to Oregon. But I'm still, one of my offices is in Santa Rosa. So I'm at the end of when I get to California, I always go in that area and I always search because I always want to promote that area, that Napa and Sonoma as well. And all the other ones, but those are the first ones that I hit when I get to California.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and I'm grateful for the answer. I have to say that 18% would really be a little bit strong for me personally. I'm a little bit on the wimpy side, and so when I see wines, honestly, I was going for the 9, 10, 11%. Like even if I see a wine that's like 12%, I'm like, can we go lower?
Yeah.
Like I am a wimp when it comes to that.
See, that's where it gets tricky because sometimes when you see a wine that's 11, 12%, but you still taste that alcohol in your throat when it goes down, it might not be the alcohol content for sure on that because it's all the other ingredients as well that they can put in the wine. And also they have a leverage, back and forth in between the numbers. So just because sometimes it's 11%, it doesn't mean it's lower in alcohol, like natural alcohol for sure. You can taste one that's 15% and you are going to get drunk if you drink a lot of it, but you won't taste the alcohol there in your throat. You won't taste that full force alcohol. You'll still taste the grape, and that's what you want. You want to taste the grape, not the alcohol. Yeah.
I,
My
I
wines are
agree
not for
with
you to
you.
get drunk. My wines are for you to enjoy.
Yeah, right. And I was talking to someone actually the other day who was in the whole vegan restaurant world, and I was saying to her that I see wines as a part of a meal. I actually see them as a component of the meal. I don't really see wines as like, I don't know, a beverage that one would consume just kind of, in abstract. In other words, for me, it's a part of the experience of the meal.
Yes, and that's what we go for as well. If you drink the whole bottle, that's on you. But
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a personal choice there. Yeah, I personally would not be able to do it. I am a lightweight. I do admit that. And we have another question, whether they can join the wine club from Canada.
we're working on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, not yet. We are importing from Canada our very first vegan wine. Yes, and I love the people behind it, and I love the person that helped me find it and their standards. So we meet like this, but no club yet. I am working on it.
Awesome. So let me ask you a question. Is that wine currently on your website where someone could go and have a look at it, or has it not been added yet?
Not yet. not yet.
Okay. Okay.
Because
So stay tuned, everyone, for that to be added to their selection and collection is what I'm gathering.
yes.
I love that. Now, I understand that you also work with sommelier in terms of doing wine pairings for their menu. So how does that function, please?
Well, we have our in-house sommelier, Raven, and she's amazing. Um, and whenever anyone needs any help from us, we have her there and part of our team, and she loves to do it. That's one thing, she loves her job. And I was introduced to her by the owner of Casa Vegana here in Puerto Rico. So he's a vegan. He was like, I'm like, wow, look at you introducing me to some. So it worked out.
Yeah.
And so let's say that we do a lot of food and wine pairing with other chefs.
Yes.
I love doing that, you know.
Yeah.
So we go and they give us a menu, and we give it to our in-house som, and then she pairs the menu with the wines, and she likes to say why, you know, like give a
Of
little
course.
description. Yeah. So that's how we've been trying to, because a lot of times the chefs don't know much about wines, you know, and they have amazing food, beautiful food, and we want that experience, you know. Let's get that experience, because I know I'm the first one, like, I am going to eat this. Yeah. And that's what we want to keep growing on that. So we're after my trip, we're going to start doing more. We're putting them together as we speak. So
So let's say and I think that's all phenomenal, by the way. And like I was saying, for me, a wine is a component of the meal. And back in the day, for example, when I was vegetarian, pescatarian, and before that, in my younger years, I was still always mainly attracted to fish, to be honest, because it was lighter. I never really liked what we call meat, because of all the blood and all of the nonsense that was going on in the meat. But I was not vegan, so I'm not coming from it. I'm not coming at it from that perspective. But I grew up, just thinking, well, red wine goes with red meat, and white wine goes with fish. And yeah, I mean, I guess that, in my mind, I guess that's the pairing, like that's all I knew about pairing. But I mean, you all, of course, take it, way up to several levels higher than that, in terms of, is the person, munching on mushrooms? What are the subtleties of that particular family of mushrooms, and which wines would go beautifully with that? Versus, is your dish mainly, I don't know, asparagus or tomatoes or something? Sorry, I'm back. That was a call.
okay.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about that. So I think it's really beautiful to have that pairing between, the elements, if it's asparagus, if it's mushrooms, tomatoes, whatever it is. So I think that's really awesome.
Thanks.
And yeah, and so if a person who watches this later, or who's watching it now, knows of a restaurant, and they have a great menu, et cetera, et cetera, and they're interested in these pairings, do they just contact My Vegan Wines? How does that work?
Well, as far as wholesale, we're in New York, California, and Puerto Rico. Now, we are trying to grow, so we're looking for distributors in other states, because we are the sole importer of the wines that we import. So, but we want to make it accessible to other distributors. Yeah. So, if anyone knows of anyone that's interested, or anyone knows of a restaurant that has these connections, they can contact us at any time. We just had someone today contact us, and I was like, no, we don't have a distributor, but I'm on it. I need to know where it's wanted, and that way we
Yeah.
can start forward from there.
I love that, because you're basically, where there's a demand, there's a supply. Once you get the demand, then you can supply it. I love that. Yes. And
Yes.
so, tell us, please, about your wine and cheese pairings. I know you, alluded to it earlier, but what should we know about the wine and cheese pairings? Because vegan cheeses, as with vegan wines, thankfully are becoming more popular and more common. And so my question is, what should we know about your wine and cheese pairings, please?
We also pair the cheese with the wine. So since we do 3 cheeses, and we'll say, okay, this cheese pairs with either of these wines. You can have, because it's 6 wines, so we do two, two, and two. So yeah, so we want to give the experience once again, and it's always not. I'm not the one that pairs it. I'm the one that finds the wines. I have a team that's experienced, a sommelier, that's her experience. I have a nutritionist on our team. That's her experience. I'm not trying to wear that hat that I don't have that experience in. I can eat. I have that experience. But just like the winemakers, I mean, that's their hat. That's the farmers. That's their hat. I'm here to support that. That's what I'm here for.
I love that because, a lot of people stay on the standard diet or they remain vegetarian because of cheese. And the casein in cheese is very addictive. Who knows what concoctions they're creating, and the animal-based cheeses, the artificial flavors, the colors, the aromas, et cetera, et cetera. Who knows what's in there? And I think, and I've heard firsthand from many people that they really struggle with getting off of the animal-based cheeses. So I really love that you are providing vegan cheese options as well as the beautiful pairings to really, make it pop, I guess is how I would describe it in my, lingo, if you will.
Yeah, and I love it. Sometimes they send me photos of it. This is what we did, and I love saying that. Because
Yeah.
we our team puts a lot of work into this, and to see that it's being appreciated is, it gives you that push to keep doing even more. Okay, now we want to find want more cheeses, and just like we're hard on the wines, we are with the vegan cheeses as well, because we want to keep supporting once again the small businesses and the independent businesses that are doing the right way. So.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so interesting. We have someone who just joined with a really cool name, and the name is No More Velveeta.
I love it. Yeah.
And many of us grew up on
Oh God.
Velveeta.
Grilled cheese all the way, Velveeta, right?
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, that is such an interesting name. I love that. And so tell us, please, Francis, what do we need to know about any future projects or services that you're working on that you want to share with us at this time?
Oh, we're always trying to, work on so many things. In Puerto Rico, we're trying to get a wine club here as well.
Yes.
It's a little bit different here, but we're doing it. We're working with more restaurants here. We have a lot of plant-based chefs on the island.
You do.
A lot, yeah. And then now when I go to New York, find other vegan companies. So if anyone knows of any, please let me know. And we want to also start curating vacations, winery tours in Italy, France, and Chile. That's one of the things that we've been working on. So Italy will be first, and even here in Puerto Rico, because our cacao wine, you can everybody will do it. It's only one winery. Well, and then we're going to do it with the Veg Fest Puerto Rico. So when people come travel here for the Veg Fest, they can also visit the winery. So yeah, very
Wow.
happy about that.
So, yeah, so tell us about Ventress Puerto Rico, please.
Yeah, well, we're going to do it April of next year. And we're going to do it on the West Coast, Rincon, and that's where the first one took place. So what happened when Hurricane Maria happened, I was here 3 days after because I couldn't, my parents, there was no way of contacting them. So I was here during the aftermath. No gas, no food. That's the most canned food I've ever eaten my whole
Of
life.
course, of course.
But I also I kept coming, we kept coming and, helping my parents with their land and stuff. So I started seeing that people were like so frustrated that they couldn't, there was no food because we import everything. We're an island that is, it's the perfect temperature year round for growing your own food, but we didn't do it. So I started seeing that more and more people were starting to grow their own, and a lot of doctors left the island. So a lot of people had to go to natural medicines again, what your grandmother and great grandmother could do in the backyard. Yeah. So I took that and I told my partner, I said, let's just do a veg fest here. Let's just take advantage of, because I seen all these people doing this, and I'm like, we got to put them together, because a lot of people didn't have cell phones or landlines really at the time. So we were like, come on, let's put them all together, and that's how it started. And it's nonprofit, and the only thing that I ever charged the vendor was what the government charged me for the license, and that is it. Yeah, nothing else. I was so much into that I forgot to involve vegan wines in the first one. They're like, so where's your wines? I'm like, oh, I forgot.
But that says a lot. I have to say, that really says a lot about your heart and your intentions. Again, brava for that, because it's not like you were trying to use it as a marketing tool or a promotion tool, which I would applaud you for doing, by the way. I would applaud you for using it as a marketing tool, because we need more publicity and marketing and advertising, to spread the news about vegan wines and everything that you're doing. We have a question here. Where is she? So Frances is down in Puerto Rico. Amazing. Beautiful Puerto Rico. And so tell us, Frances, now my understanding too is that the vegan hotel scene is really increasing in Puerto Rico.
It is. It is. My friend she owns this really cute, cozy one in the West Coast too. And it's amazing, she's a super host on Airbnb, like within a month or and a half. And I was like, go girl. And a lot of them are not vegans that come, and she uses that also to cook for them. She gives them the option to cook. Yes. So, yeah, there's a few more that I've heard of in the middle of the island. I haven't gone to it, but they're growing more and more. They really are. And there's one in the little island, in Vieques, which is another part of. Yeah, that one is.
I follow them also. I follow several of them on
Yeah.
On Instagram. I mean, there are like 4 that I could list off right now whom I personally follow, and there are probably a couple others who are out there too that I'm not yet following.
Yeah, and there's Casa Grande too. So
they're up in the mountains.
Mm-hmm. We have we're their own. They tasted our wines and they said, you're going to be our only supplier for wines. So
I love their property. Looks amazing.
I love their drive. To drive there, it's a lot of curves, and I'm with a van. I'm not with a car, but it's worth it when you're going there and you get there and you see what they're doing.
Yes,
it's just like
it's beautiful.
Their movement, really, they are amazing.
It's beautiful. I mean, I've read up on them, and I'm so impressed by what they're doing.
Yeah,
and they also had to rebuild, like many places after the hurricane.
Yes, it was. They told me it was such a disaster when Maria hit, with a lot of people. But I'm actually trying to get a trip together to get a group of us, just a whole bunch of us, and just buy it out for the weekend, or because everything is nature, yoga, food. I mean, so many things that we would just love. And to recharge, we all need to recharge too,
Totally. And it's so accessible from both the US and Europe. That's what I love.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things happening. Very excited about it. And that's why I'm like, I'm leaving on Thursday to New York. But then things have been changing so much. I didn't even buy the ticket till today, because I'm like, what if else something changes? Because they're like, we need wine here, wine there. And I'm the only delivery person. I mean, We are a small business, you know.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be there. I'll be there. Let's set up a time. I'll be there.
Exactly. So
I love that.
it's all.
No. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that it's beautiful that what the changes that are happening.
I agree. It's beautiful. We have someone saying, I need to go to Puerto Rico. I
Yeah.
agree. I need to get down there. Oh my gosh, this is exciting. So, Francis, well, first of all, this is really such a great conversation. I really want to thank you so much. And I want to just invite everyone to get your questions and comments in down below for Francis. And while we wait for that, Francis, tell us, please, what are the best ways for people to contact you for information, collaboration, questions, comments, etc.?
Info at veganwines.com, because I still check it every morning, and then I would say that's the best way, because I'm very on top of that, so, and I'm open to any questions, honestly. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find it.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome. And so before I ask you to wrap this up and put a bow on it, please, with your final comments for us today, I want to thank you so very much. I want to thank everybody who joined, either live or on the replay. I love your energy here in the chat. And as they say, the chat is where it's at. So thank you so much, everybody, for chiming in here. And so, Francis, I'm just going to ask you if you have any final thoughts for us, to just wrap this up and put a bow on it for us, please.
Thank you. Yeah, my whole concept of everything, the main ingredients is patience and less is more. It's an experience that I want to keep sharing and growing, and if anyone ever has any questions, suggestions, we're here, we're definitely here. We want to give you more than that bottle of wine. We want to give you the back, the front, the sideways, everything.
And I really think that you're doing it though, Francis, because you have the cheese pairings, you have the recipe pairings, you have the vegan wine club, you have the the restaurant chef and vegan wine pairings. I even, heard you on Clubhouse speaking about chocolate, I don't know where that is. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to say about that. I know you talked about the cacao, establishment down there in Puerto Rico, but I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say about the chocolate connection.
Oh gosh, yes. Well, her father, the winemaker's father in Puerto Rico, that's how I know her, because of her father. So his chocolate is, I know him for years. His chocolate is vegan because he uses coconut milk. Yeah. So it's delicious. He's the one that told me about his daughter. And the other one is in New York, is a lady that her chocolates are, oh my gosh, amazing. And they're raw and they're nut free. So, and yes, and I can eat the whole box. So
what? I mean, she's checking so many boxes there.
We had her, we paired her wines for her chocolate for Mother's Day, and it went so well that she's going to be added permanently on our wine store for the pairings. Yeah.
That's beautiful. See, there again, who doesn't? Well, I know one person I met, she doesn't like chocolate, but other than that, everyone else I know likes chocolate.
Right? Cheese, chocolate, and vegan meat too, charcuterie board right there set, So we've done a whole bunch of bundles, and when I travel, I also get more ideas, and
Of course.
and that's when we meet other people, we're like, can you ship? And do you ship? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, we'll be in contact.
I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I know you're super busy, Francis, and I just want to super thank you so much for taking the time to come on to join us and, to share everything that you're doing. I want to encourage everybody, to please go and follow My Vegan Wines and follow Francis. She also has her personal page that she is logging in from on this live, and then I put the Instagram page of My Vegan Wines on the bottom there, so you can also find Frances over there. Yeah, so thank you so much, Frances, for coming on. It's been awesome. I'm gonna save this to Instagram, IGTV, my stories and my feed, and then I'll message you after.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, and thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of the day.
Thank you, and you too. Take good care, Frances, and take good care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.